my Knicks friends and family. I'm not even sure if you guys can hear me loud enough. But we about to go ahead and get this thing going. Knicks family, what is popping with you? Glad you guys are here with me tonight. I know I got my eyes covered and all of that. I'm about to fix that real soon. What's popping with you? My man Big Freezy, Guillermo, I see you guys in the YouTube chat. We need you to get on in here in the video chat if you plan on having some conversations tonight. It's not going to be a super long show. We're just going to get in here. We're going to talk about what we need to talk about and get up out of here. Big shout out to you guys, though, man. Let me adjust my brim real quick so I can see you guys. You guys can see me. What's popping with you, man? So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You see what we're going to start off the show with. Tom Thibodeau, he gets a formal interview with the New York Knicks. Seems as though, I'm not even sure when he got it. I just seen the highlights, so I don't know anything about it. I just seen that he got an interview with the New York Knicks. And we had a lot of discussions today. You know, we did a lot of shows today. The whole NBK network did shows today. We talked a lot about trade scenarios and things like that. We didn't really get too much into coaching. You know, we did talk about the dude from Chicago getting his chance to interview. Now, of course, Tom Thibodeau's getting his chance to interview with the New York Knicks. Leon Rose promised that he's going to have a coach by the end of July. The process is underway, ladies and gentlemen. Better believe it. The process is underway. Tom Thibodeau has a formal interview with the New York Knicks. Let's see when this interview is going to be. Tom Thibodeau, the lead candidate to coach the Knicks, had his second interview with the club through Zoom. Okay, so it was today. It was today. He had his second interview through Zoom. Who knows how they're going to handle things with all the social distancing and all of that? I mean, obviously, we know they're doing it through Zoom, but at some point, they've got to have a face-to-face meeting. At some point. We don't know when that'll be, but I'm pretty sure it'll be sometime soon. Thibodeau, he's a former Knicks assistant. He was the head coach of the Chicago Bulls and the head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves. And, you know, speaking of the Chicago Bulls, the Knicks also interviewed one of the assistants from the Chicago Bulls. Now I forgot his name. Can't think of his name. It was not coming to me, but it'll get there. Just be patient. I got to be patient sometimes. It'll get there. Let me get my man Guillermo over here. Talk about this and some other things going on. Not just with the New York Knicks, but we're going to talk about the entire NBA. Because, you know, it is now July the 9th. Training camp for the Bubble League is going to begin July 31st. Teams are already in Orlando. Still, a lot going on with that whole Bubble League thing, man. So let me get my guy over here. Guillermo, what's popping with you, bro? Let me get my headphones on. What's up, man?
Yo, what's up with that RZA Gravediggers beat you played in the beginning, man? What's going on, man?
What you mean?
That beat you played was mad like airy and dark, man. Like, you good, bro?
I'm good, man. You know, I'm just experimenting with some stuff. With some music.
Cool.
Just experimenting with some music. So I did the other day I did a little, what was that? Like 2-bar. I did a little 2-bar beat, you know, just experimenting with some stuff that I had, and I wanted to, some things I had in my brain and wanted to get it out. So I experimented with, you know, just messed around with it a little bit, put it out there, and I decided, well, let me just put it up here. Just for something to put up.
Late 90s Gravediggers, I guess mid-90s Gravediggers, RZA type of flow. It was good, though. I was just surprised. I was like, when you come with the bucket hat, the eyes not showing, I'm like, it was good. This dude, man.
Yo, I'm not
really
going
Dark Sim,
bro. I'm not going Kanye on him. I'm not. I promise you.
You know what? No. I see. Don't play. See, that's what I like about Sim. Sim thinks he's slick. So Sim on the front stoop had this whole thing about Kanye West and all this stuff. And I'm like, yo, dogs, this dude has mental issues, blah, blah. He's like, nah, yo, let's just discuss it, blah, blah. Then when it comes out this morning, his family's talking about, yo, this dude has mental issues. Now Sim wants to run. Do you see what Sim does?
Oh, but hold up.
Julius Randle.
No.
Same thing.
But did you? Well, you didn't see the clip. I tried to upload a clip into our little group chat where I said right there. I said maybe his bipolar disorder is playing out before us in front of our eyes. I have a link that as a matter of, I can actually play the link right now if you want to hear it.
Okay, if you sent the link, because I just saw the picture, I thought it was an article that you were sending.
No. I did. It's an article. It's an article. People saying, his family saying that, he's having an episode right now, and we talked about bipolar disorder as it relates to Kanye West, and I said, hey, maybe his bipolar disorder is playing out in front of our eyes. I don't know. And then he was, and I don't know. But I'm not going Kanye, I promise. I just, you don't have to worry about that. Just sometimes, every once in a while, something gets in your head and you're like, all right, well, let's just do it.
It's not bad. It's just different. Like I was like, okay, it's RZA Gravediggers type of. I can literally hear RZA rapping off beat.
As a matter of fact, the name of the song in my machine is RZA.
Did you get the influence straight from, or you just named it like a West Side Gun, put a title that has nothing to do?
No, I just because when I made it, I was like, it sounds like a RZA beat, so I just named it RZA. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like if somebody was to do something to it, that wouldn't be the name. You know what I mean? That's just what I named it, just because. You know what I mean?
No, that makes sense. Very, very un-West Side Gun like. So I'm very that's good, man. I feel you. It's nice though. It's just different. So salute to that, man.
Yeah, this is it right here. Just in case anybody didn't hear it. Oh yeah, just in case anybody didn't hear it. And that's it's just a little 2-bar joint. Just a little 2-bar joint, But I might send it to RZA and say, hey, which one of your beats does this sound like? Go ahead and rap over it. But anyway, man, the Knicks interviewed Tom Thibodeau. We're getting closer. We're getting closer and we're getting closer and closer. The Knicks interviewed Tom Thibodeau today through Zoom. His second interview. Right. Chris Fleming. That's the guy. I couldn't think of his name. Chris Fleming also interviewed today. That's the guy that we were talking about earlier today on the show. No, he's from the Bulls. Yeah, he's from the Bulls. He's the assistant from the Bulls. He was an assistant with the Nets for 3 years. He was an assistant for the Bulls 2019, 2020. So he is Chris Fleming. Yeah, Chris Fleming. He is familiar with Kenny Atkinson. Oh, you're muted. Oh, yeah, my bad. There you go. So Chris Fleming, he is familiar with Kenny Atkinson. So right. I do kind of feel like he's only been an assistant in the league for 5 years. It's probably not enough time. I mean, maybe, he's supposed to be, from what I read, tweets from reporters and things like that, they say that he's an offensive architect. Now, he's an offensive architect. Now, that could fit well with either one of these guys. Kenny Atkinson, since he's familiar with him, that could be one of his cronies where they said, hey, if you needed to hire a staff, tell me somebody that you would like to hire.
Hold on.
They said,
sorry, Simpson, they say no sound.
No sound? No sound from me? No sound from you?
Can y'all hear both of us?
I think maybe that's on a delay because they got to be able to hear. I'm looking at it. It's got to be coming through.
Yeah, Ralph is saying it's good now, so maybe that was a delay.
Okay. Yeah, it was a delay. Probably an old one. Probably someone who came in a little bit late and was watching it late or something. I don't know. But
you're saying Chris Fleming's an offensive architect?
Yeah. I mean, that's what they say. I don't know anything about him really, but that's what a couple of people have said, that he's an offensive guy. He clearly worked with Kenny Atkinson before, so maybe he's somebody that Kenny would be like, yeah, I'd like to bring this guy here with me. As a matter of fact, he worked with Kenny Atkinson when the Nets were better last year. Now, obviously, everything happened with KD and with Kyrie, but he worked with Kenny Atkinson during that time that the Nets were rising.
Yeah.
And they played in that equal opportunity type of offensive system. Mm-hmm. Right? Maybe this guy was part of that, in those ingredients.
Yeah, because I mean, he got the best out of some players. I mean, D'Angelo Russell was always talented, but he didn't play like how he did that last year. But then he did with the Lakers, and obviously, I was a young team. But you could argue he was a guy. I don't know the exact usage rate on Lakers, but you could argue he was a key piece. So I don't think he was being held back by the Lakers. They had guys like Joe Harris, Chris LeVert. I mean, his numbers never really popped out. He got injured a few times, but he looked like a dude that still looks like it now, but a guy who's ascending. He got the best out of what you could do with Jared Allen, just because if you think about Jared Allen, it's fairly limited. He's a poor man's Mitchell Robinson in my eyes, but they made use of him. Even though it's a very, very basic style, pick and roll, cut to the basket, he was very effective in terms of picks and stuff. So, I mean, when you look at certain guys like Chris Fleming and stuff, I'm trying to mirror like his development and Atkinson's development and then Tibbs' development with their plays to how it would match with the plays we have on the Knicks. Because we're not going to draft 5 new guys this year. You're not going to draft the whole team. So you're going to have leftovers. You're going to have guys maybe like Dotson. Is he a free agent, Dotson? Well, forget it. You usually have guys. Yes. Right, but you're still going to have guys, even say Dotson resigns, but you're still going to have guys that role plays and stuff. You have to see how much you got. Because remember, Dotson played inconsistent minutes. Bullock had the issue, with his sister's death. And then he was, inconsistent minutes with a lot of players. You can really tell, all right, what is his role? What will be his role? So it makes me see. I'm just trying to think. I got to think about with Tibbs. I got to go back and read about what was happening with the Wolves in terms of like other role players, other players outside of Wiggins and Cat, how they developed.
Right. And I wonder if Thibodeau, how he feels about Chris Fleming. Right, and if Thibodeau is the guy, because there's always questions about Tom Thibodeau's offense, right? So far, on the show we've heard a lot of questions. What kind of offense does he run, and what would he do with this team, and the players that we have on this team?
That's the thing that scares me too, man. Because when you think about it, and I know Mark would kill me. I'm not trying to hate, but Thibodeau's been blessed with a lot of talented players. Mm-hmm. Like even that Bulls team. Yes, we know Joakim Noah was not a great offensive player, but the fact that he got him to play defense and small minor roles in terms of setting the picks, cutting to the basket, being a facilitator from the foul line, having court vision as a big man. I mean, for the simple fact he was able to get the most. I mean, the kid was still talented come out of Florida, so that's the thing I'm just scared about with Tibbs. And then he underachieved. Let's call it what it is. With the Bulls, he had leadership. Think about it. He had Derrick Rose. Yeah, Luol Deng was a good leader. And he had Kirk Heinrich for maybe a year or so, whatever. But he had, and then you have Joakim Noah, who, you're not asking him to play way out of his own talent, out of his space. You know what I mean? So that was controlling. He even had Jimmy Butler come on. I know Jimmy Butler and Derrick Rose kind of clashed. But even then, Jimmy Butler was a model, not to say model player, but he's a guy you could say, all right, he could lead a team by his talent, his hard work and stuff like that. Go to the Timberwolves, and he had probably, I don't say just as talented, but a very talented team. They were top 10 in offense, I think, the last year he was there, and they underachieved. So I'm just scared. Look, the Knicks don't have talent like that, man. RJ Barrett, as much as I like him, RJ Barrett may never be super duper star. As much as I like him, may never be super duper star. That's fine. Mitchell Robinson, same thing. So, say you draft a guy like LaMelo. You know what I mean? Does LaMelo's game – LaMelo's a guy who wants to score, right? You want Melo to play defense, but, Tom Thibodeau might be the type of guy who reward LaMelo, don't let him play his natural game, and making a meritocracy where he has to play defense to be able to play into his offense, which I don't disagree with. But with a guy like Melo, would he be better off suited where he's playing the best to his offensive skills, build up his confidence, and then you slowly work the defensive part, and you do that with players on the court that can kind of be a model to him, like an RJ, and that's where Atkinson comes in. So Thibodeau, to me, I know people are going to kill me, but, and I know Tony Kroos called in with a good call. I think that scout dude called in one time, the consultant dude. Mm-hmm. And they made good points, but it's like these are good points almost in a vacuum, man. Like, they're just looking at numbers. I don't know if there's enough context, bro. Like, I don't know. Thibodeau should not have underachieved with the Wolves, man. That Wolves thing just scares me, man.
Nah, I hear you. I get it. And, it's hard to say, what the ingredients were and how, like you said, just not knowing what everything that happened there. I just wonder if, how Tom Thibodeau is, and maybe Tom Thibodeau was also a guy that named Chris Fleming as someone that he wouldn't mind having as an assistant, as his offensive guy. And I want to do more research about Fleming and find out how big of a part of the developmental system that Kenny Atkinson had did he play? You know what I mean? Did he have a really big role? Because he was there for those 3 vital years with Kenny Atkinson that the Nets really, went from the dirt, from nothing to something. You know what I mean? So I'd like to see what role he is.
People are going to kill us. When you look at the numbers, and yes, Atkinson's offensive numbers as a team wasn't the best. They weren't the best. And, I mean, there's some other stats that Stop Videos put out, one of your subscribers. But when you look at that team, the fact that they're able to get to the playoffs, but let's be honest, I mean, outside of D'Angelo Russell, who from that Nets team would you say, I don't even say even elite, is like a premier top, like a premier player for just their position?
Like who else was a
Joe Harris? Like you could say, you could build around this player. Outside of, say, take away D'Angelo Russell at his peak for that team, who would you look at that? That team was filled with a bunch of role players if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I'm trying to even think of who's their legit number 2 scorers, or like, I'll say legit number 2. Like, you know what I mean? Like a guy who could carry the team if D'Angelo Russell wasn't playing.
Spencer Dinwiddie.
But Spencer Dinwiddie.
They also had what's his name? I can't think of his name right now.
Spencer Dinwiddie's a top.
They also had Karis LeVert. They had Karis LeVert. What about LeVert? They had LeVert.
LeVert's not LeVert. If you look at his numbers, LeVert is talented, but he ain't a guy. He's not a guy.
Yeah, he's not prolific. I wouldn't say he's prolific.
Right. And Spencer Dinwiddie, as much as I actually like him, I know he talks crap about the Knicks, but I actually like him. If you look at his production, right, outside of take away D'Angelo, is not enough, right? Because so he did have flashes where when Kyrie Irving got hurt this season, right, he came in and he produced, but it's still too small of a sample size. And even with D'Angelo Russell, I don't know if there are any stretch periods where D'Angelo Russell didn't play and Spencer Dinwiddie was carrying that team. He's like borderline 1B, like touching 1B. He's a proper 2 player, but you know what I mean? So I'm not hating on him, but someone said, but Joe Harris is a role player. He's a really good 3-point shooter, really good space shooter, but he's not a guy who, Joe Harris carries for the next 10, 15 games because this guy and this guy's hurt. He's not that. He's not a Bradley Beal who could do that. So.
Nah, I hear you. Let me get to this phone call real quick. Caller, you're live with Nothing But Knicks. What's poppin'? Hey,
how you doing?
I'm good. How you feeling, brother?
Oh, fine, thanks, man. First time listening to your show for a long time.
I appreciate you, my man.
I think people are overthinking Thibodeau a little bit.
Okay.
Because I think with the stage the Knicks are at, they need a guy who has some level of credibility with this group of players. You have a situation where we had a guy like Thibodeau who, yes, he was an assistant coach, but obviously the job was too big for him. We came from a litany of folks during Phil Jackson's tenure that couldn't do the job. You need a face, as much as I think some people say Mark Jackson, that's not going to work, but you need a guy like Thibodeau that has some level of credibility. I think He's proven he's been able to win. He's gotten to the playoffs. He's gotten close. I do like Atkinson, but I'm not overly hung up on Thibodeau because I think that the guys will respond to him and he will bring a level of cachet that they desperately need.
Okay. Now, I get it. And that's what Leon Rose was saying when they asked him, what is your, what are the characteristics you're looking for in a coach? And he said, I want a guy that when he's in that huddle, everyone looks into his eyes and they know that he's leading the team. And I can assume that that's a characteristic that Tom Thibodeau has. What kind of assistants do you think Tom Thibodeau, first of all, does Tom Thibodeau have any assistants that he carried along with him from the Chicago Bulls to the Minnesota Timberwolves? Did he have some of his people that he brought with him?
I feel like there was one. I just can't place the name. I just remember when he got to Minnesota. I know he was given the whole shebang,
right.
And obviously that was too much for him to take on, and scaled it back. But I would think that a couple of years outside of coaching a little bit, you get a chance to look in and kind of rejuvenate. And it's possible the organization say, you know what, why don't you take a Mike Miller? Keep him on. And maybe there's some other young guys that he knows that he would bring along. I'm not sure. I don't really know too much about his coaching carousel that was underneath him.
Okay, so let's see. In 2010, 2011, well, they don't really say who the assistants are. So I was looking on Basketball Reference to try to find out what the coaching staff was like. I don't really, I don't see the assistants. I just see Tom Thibodeau. Do you think the fact that Tom Thibodeau had, he had a lot of power in Minnesota, right? He was the coach and the president or whatever it was, coaching the GM, whatever title. How much do you think that played into whatever happened in Minnesota? How much do you think that played into it?
As a person who is kind of, in a leadership role and you kind of oversee people, sometimes when you're doing something brand new like that, he was a coach for a long time as an assistant, as a head coach, and you get to that position where now you're actually making the decisions. I have yet to see a coach on basketball really function in that role. I mean, even Popovich had to scale that back. It's hard to look at the guys and you're trying to coach them, but then you have to take that step back and then look at them from the organizational perspective. That's difficult considering that role. And I think it was just too big for him. And you come in, you're just given this big job, and all of a sudden you're looking at these guys like, all right, I got to try to lead you. I have to try to motivate you, bring you to the best version of yourself. But at the same time, you know what? I might need to trade you for an upgrade. Well, that's hard.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's hard. And that will splinter relationships big time. That's why I think those positions should always be separated. Always be separated.
One last, if I can just say one last thing, as I sit back and listen to, as usual, our lovely national media act trifling as usual when it comes to the Knicks, I think Leon Rose is clearly putting together a set of people behind the scenes that kind of know what they're doing now. When you're getting scouts like P. Ryan, and I forgot his name, there's another one they got, and then that young analytic guy and the cap person, like Alonzo Trio was really a cap move. I think ultimately, I have a suspicion that Leon Rose is really putting together behind the scenes. It's not real showy. He's not really flashy. And what you're starting to hear behind the scenes now is when you start hearing players now talking about the management personnel and not giving us the old usual, the Knicks are a great history and the fans, because all to me that was always just like icing fluff. It was never real. But I want to see, and I'm starting to see that when the players and some other folks like that are talking about the World Wide Wests, they're talking about the Pirons, they're talking about Leon Rose. That to me is then when you're going to start to see a shift with players' perception, and maybe then we'll start getting some of these guys.
We'll see. I guess, I think they could be excited about what they've done. Other players in the league, they might be excited, but they're probably still taking that, let's see what they do. You know what I mean? And if they start doing some things that are good, then yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
And I'm from Orlando. I can tell you right now, I'll be very surprised if NBA season continues.
Okay, there you go. You're from Orlando. You know what? And I seen the 407. I was like, oh, this guy's from Orlando. All right, so what's it like in Orlando right now? And we're gonna get back to Knicks, ladies and gentlemen. But I just want to jump on the opportunity since he's on the phone. What's it like in Orlando? What are people saying in Orlando?
So really and truly, as I'll be honest with you, people in this city, they're not big basketball fans. That's why the Magic can go on with the nonsense for the years they go on, and no one cares. It kind of makes the news, the little bit on the local news, but it's not like people are clamoring to try to get to see players or anything like that. And I know they probably know they can't. The guys are here. A lot of chatter about some people are not happy with hotels. Ray John Rondo posted a pic about comparing a Motel 6, which is silly. They've done a really good job. You don't really know what's going on. I mean, I was actually even down in the vicinity recently. You wouldn't know anything's going on. There's not like there's any extra activity in and around that Disney area.
Right.
So, it's hot right now. It was almost 102 degrees today. So it's very hot. So, but the cases are what they are. And the players are going to have to stay away and do what they're doing, or they're going to see increases. And that might pose a problem.
Yeah, and Mark, you can't talk, man. You can't talk, Mark. I don't want to have to mute you, bro.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, unless you're talking to the caller. But I mean, it makes sense that they wouldn't have any other festivities around it. I was just wondering how the city maybe felt about it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Honestly, Sam, to be perfectly frank with you, I'm a big proponent of some teams being contracted, and the Magic needs to be the first ones to go. Because the players, the team, that they don't, well, from an organizational perspective, there's, you wouldn't even know they exist unless you drive down I-4 and you pass by the arena. The MLS team gets more publicity down here than they do, and it's just the way this is. The city it's more tourist. There's more excitement for UCF football half the time, and MLS, as I said before. Even when other teams come in, I mean, you can always get tickets. It's nothing. I've seen Orlando players walking at the mall. Nobody stops them.
Wow.
So
wow. That's
it's not that kind of.
Okay.
It's not that kind of city. It is just not like that.
All right.
I go to a Knicks game if I've gone, and it is orange and blue up and down.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, hey, man, I appreciate your call, bro.
All right.
Yeah,
I won't be a stranger. Thank you.
No, definitely, man. Looking forward to it.
Thanks.
All right. My man Mark, what's going on, man? We got Mark, Big Freezy in the building, Nate's in the building. What's going on, man? How y'all feeling?
What's up, family? What's going on, y'all?
I'm good. Let me ask you guys. Do you think I already know what Mark's answer is going to be. So Mark, you don't even have to answer this one. I already know your answer. We all know what your answer is going to be. How much do you think Tom Thibodeau's role in Minnesota, being the coach and the general manager or whatever his title was, how much did it play into whatever happened in Minnesota? Because that is a tough position. That's a tough position to be in. A tough position to be in. Yeah, I got to coach you and I got to trade you. That's
He's
tough.
wearing two hats, and he wasn't experienced in one of the positions. So, he probably was better off just being coach. And honestly, Sim, I just think that was a bad fit for Minnesota. I would really like to know why they chose him to coach in Minnesota, because they already didn't have the defensive players. Other than Wiggins, they really didn't have any defensive players that Thibodeau really could lean his hat on, because defense is his calling card. Surprisingly, offensively, they were better than they were defensively. I just thought it was a bad match overall. But the fact is that he was a GM and a coach at the same time. Yeah, it's very hard to try to build players up and then have to trade them. I'm sure that weighed on him a lot.
Right. I mean, and think about if you're a player, right? If you're a player and you know that your coach has the power to trade you, obviously any coach has the power to go to their GM and say, hey, I want this guy gone. Right. And
but he could actually do
it may or may not happen if they go and they say that. But when your coach is the general manager, you know that this guy has the power to trade you at the drop of a dime. You know what I mean? That can splinter some relationships. That can make it tough. That can make it tough. You know what I mean? Because something happens between you and the coach in practice, and now you're thinking, man, this dude might trade me. You know, that's tough. Big Freezy, what do you think, man? And let me send you the invitation to unmute yourself again. I don't know. I think you still muted somehow, Big Freezy. You still muted somehow. Oh, there you go.
How about now?
Yeah, you're good. Yep.
Yeah. Hey, man. So, I kind of like the Thibodeau hire. I think he's by far the best of all these candidates that we have heard through the media. I think what he brings to an NBA franchise can't be undervalued, especially when we have a budding megastar in RJ Barrett. You don't want to get the wrong guy in here and then have RJ Barrett regress. I think the lack of a Thibodeau is why we're in the situation that we're in right now. We had a David Fizdale, who was anyway, Thibodeau type coaching is what we need. RJ Barrett's numbers, and I know this is about Thibodeau, not just RJ Barrett, but RJ Barrett's numbers last year after Marcus Morris was traded away was borderline superstar caliber. He averaged almost 18 points a game on 45% shooting and 33% from three, which we all know that his shooting needs to improve. But when you have a guy like a Fizdale type, a young coach looking to make his mark in the league, certain mistakes to be made in establishing yourself as a coach, right? Tom Thibodeau doesn't need to establish himself as an NBA coach. He's won NBA Coach of the Year. He's won 60-plus games. He's coached the three number one picks in the draft, Derrick Rose, Andrew Wiggins, and Karl Anthony Towns. So you know that he can manage young guys. I think if we bring in Tibbs, keep the roster the same, Tibbs can get this team to a 40-win team. I don't know if that'd be good enough to get us an 8 or 7 seed or whatever.
40 you wow.
But the thing about Tibbs is you have never heard in any type of discussion where Tibbs got a high lottery pick, and that high lottery pick or first round pick turned out to be a bust. The only player that you may be able to introduce into that conversation is Tony Snell, and Tony Snell is a seasoned veteran. You know what I'm saying? So if we go with Tibbs, we can look at RJ Barrett becoming the megastar that he is. All he needs is development. The development of Mitch. You'll see Mitch's defense go from the potential to be a great defensive player to potentially defensive player of the year caliber type, because all the tools are there. And you will also see guys like Frank Ntilikina go into the role that he was destined to be in, a defensive-minded point guard that takes solace in locking down the other team's best perimeter or point guard. So I think that the fact that the Knicks are taking their time, doing a coaching search is to me are just about due diligence, just to make sure that they don't leave a stone unturned. But Thibodeau is the obvious guy. All the other candidates are emotional type, such and such did good with Jeremy Lin. If we bring him here, he might be able to do such and such with such and such. or the guy this other guy has, he's an offensive guru. If you give him the controls, we might become a top. All these things we know for a fact with Tom Thibodeau that if you give him decent NBA talent, he is not going to ruin guys like in terms of their development. The overplaying guys, giving them excess of minutes, that might be an issue. But the deal with that is, and Sim said it himself, he showed us that the number of minutes per game is not an issue. We saw that. There are numbers to justify the fact that Tom Thibodeau doesn't run guys in the ground in NBA games. Now, practice, we might, that might be the reason why guys develop. But at the same time, you have never known Tom Thibodeau to take lottery pick, high draft choices and turn them into busts.
I guess that's true. I still don't know what happened in Minnesota, though. How it didn't work in Minnesota. Their first season, they were 31-51. They improved to 47-35, and then before he was, whatever happened, they were 19-21, and he had talent there. Maybe it wasn't complete, but he had talent there.
He lost. Listen, he traded Levine, seeing that he could get a better player with Jimmy Butler. He did that. He was only there for what, 2 years and a half? 2 years and a half? Not even
2.5 years. 2.5 years.
Okay, so he brings in any coach would bring in players who can get them to an extent. That's just any coach. So if he brings in Jimmy Butler and Todd Gibbons, that was a plus to that Wolves team, because as we see right now, Zach LaVine is over on the other side, inefficient shooting, not carrying the Bulls to anything. So he probably realized, okay, this kid is good, but is he better than Jimmy Butler? Is he really going to help this team get where they need to get? Number two, he improved Wiggins the next year when he had him. He made him a little better player. All his stats went up. He only coached him for 2 years. So if you expect him to go in and suddenly just, boom, Andrew Wiggins just start. No, he was grooming these players. He was grooming these players. I feel like him playing both of those roles, just like when Doc Rivers did for the Clippers, and he realized that he couldn't take on, even Doc Rivers couldn't take on the GM spot. So they got rid of him from that and made him be the coach.
So why didn't they keep him as the coach?
Who?
Yeah, I
Tom
think
Thibodeau. So instead of saying like you said, Doc Rivers stayed on as the coach. He couldn't handle both. He stayed on as the coach. Why didn't they keep Tom Thibodeau as the coach? Say, you know what? You can't be the GM too. We'll just keep you on as the coach.
Could it be that those the two kids that was on the team at the time was too privileged because they got paid when? Well, Wiggins should never got paid when he got paid, and Carl Towns got paid. I think they was overprivileged. So by the time when Tom Thibodeau couldn't really flex his muscles amongst those two because they got paid the way they got paid. So if I think Carl Towns went behind and said, "Listen, I don't think Tibbs is for me." That could be just Carl Towns' personality, because even before he got drafted, Calipari said that he had to even toughen him up. So just Carl Towns' personality just don't match with Tom Thibodeau, because a super talented player, why wouldn't you want a coach that teaches consistency? Because that's what Coach Tibbs will bring to a team, just consistency in whatever he does. I just guess that Tom Thibodeau just wasn't his cup of juice. And Carl Towns is the face, and he runs things there due to the fact that he's super talented, and it's easy to put everything onto a coach nowadays when these players don't want to deal with that coach. I don't think that Tibbs was solely the reason.
No, of course not. Of course not. It's never like that in any organization. It's never like. He won't be the sole reason if the Knicks get well. He will not be the sole reason that the Knicks get better either.
I just think Timberwolves was not a stable franchise in the beginning, and you bring in a guy that's been that's stable enough as a coach. I just think that team wasn't stable enough to bring in a coach like Tom Thibodeau that teaches consistency and what he does. Sorry.
Okay.
If the player can't, That just tells you a lot about the player. Sorry. Because if I hear guys, even Zach LaVine even talked about Tom Thibodeau. He put the ball in my hand. There's a snippet out there where I'm saying that. He put the ball in my hand for me to do what I can do. He said that himself. I just think it was the stars of that team, which was Wiggins, that don't match his Tom Thibodeau's personality. So I blame that on the players more than I blame Coach Tibbs.
Can I point something real quick on so two things, one on Freezy and one on Mark. So the thing on Freezy is that when you talk about coaches coming in and people know who he is, we got to get that out of our mind. Like the old guard of the NBA basically is no longer a coaches league, right? It's a players league. And these players, unfortunately, don't give a damn about the coach. Like what you did before, back in however many years ago, especially if you didn't win a championship. These players have a lot of leverage because remember, another coach who came into the Knicks and, he was supposed to, this the guy that's supposed to change, Larry Brown. And what happened with Larry Brown? And Larry Brown and Tom Thibodeau, not to say they're not the same coach, but you have guys who are, I would say they're both headstrong. Larry Brown is probably more headstrong. But you have a guy who's going to say, hey, I'm coming here to do things my way versus let me adapt to the players. That could that could be a recipe for disaster. So we got to be very careful because a lot of these players are going to look at him like, who the hell is this guy? And that's one of the reasons I think why he lost that locker room with the Timberwolves. He brought in a guy who Jimmy Butler, who I got a lot of respect for. And I've been saying this, that I thought Jimmy Butler went about it the wrong way. He had the right message, went about the wrong way with how he did it with that team of snowflakes, let's be honest. And I know people, well, they're snowflakes, I understand. But again, it's a players league. You have to find a way to be effective with these guys. He brought in this guy, Jimmy Butler, and it didn't work because he's trying to say, hey, here's my way versus we'll try to find ways to relate these guys, right? And to Mark's point, when you look at Wiggins' numbers, he actually did worse with his last year with Tom Thibodeau, right? So if you look at his field goal percentage actually went down. His field goal percentage went from 45.2. It's actually 45.9, 2015-16, went to 45.2 the next year, and the last year with Thibodeau was 40. No, sorry. The second last year with Thibodeau was 43.8 and then went down to 41.2. And his three-point percentage worsened as well. I mean, he's never a good three-point shooter. Actually improved slightly from 33.1 to 33.9. Right? There's a guy that, when you look at his unassisted shots and trying to get this, assisted shots and kind of get this idea of off ball, on ball, I think it actually worsened as well. And you saw the reports on Wiggins. This guy, he's never reached a ceiling. He's uber talented physically, but he doesn't really have a set game. His half-court game is lacking. I think, and I agree with you, Mark. I think that Wiggins was the worst, was not a good match with Thibodeau. But it's still up to Thibodeau to find that effectiveness. What do I have to do to get this guy in the best position possible?
But if you're going to give
and the last thing is that you can't lose a locker room. Once you lose a locker room, it's done. It's one thing if you're struggling with a guy and you're trying your best, right? But when you lose a whole locker room, that means that the guys, especially you have a guy like Wiggins, who I think is over. I'm not the biggest fan of Wiggins, but if you have a guy like Wiggins, right, and Cat, or let me say Wiggins, right? If you have an influence in the locker room to not like the coach, that means that the team rather hear from a guy like Wiggins versus a coach, right? You should even, if Wiggins is talking to me and Tom Thibodeau's talking to me, right, and Tom Thibodeau's a guy I should be following, I just be like, yo, Wiggins, straighten the F up, bro. You are sucking out there. Everybody should be getting a Wiggins, but if you're following Wiggins, that's not a good sign on a coach. That means his communication's off or something he's doing not right.
Yeah, and to Guillermo's point, if you look back, and I'm going to say to Guillermo's point, but, it's kind of a slap in the face to Guillermo at the same time.
All right.
If you look back at the Giants when they had Coach Tom Coughlin.
Oh, Lord. Skip it.
All right. Okay, when they had Coach Tom Coughlin, and he took over, and the players, they were mad about the long practices. They didn't like the way things were going. He controlled everything. They wasn't feeling it. But Tom Coughlin had to make a change. He had to change his coaching style a little bit. So what did he do? He got a group of players, Michael Strahan and whoever else they got together. They got a group that was their little leadership team. Those players, that group spoke to the players. Then they brought information back to to Tom Coughlin, right? And that was the way that they had that communication type of system so that the players could, voice their opinions and then maybe get some of the things that they wanted, they could negotiate, however you want to say it, right? But he put together that leadership group. Is Tom Thibodeau willing to learn from his mistakes and, like Guillermo was saying, bend a little bit in his coaching style? You're gonna keep your characteristics, you're gonna keep your values, but not really bend, but learn how to, maybe move some things around and work things a new way to make sure that it works for the players too.
So Sam, my thing, right? Okay, this is where it's like, what do we want? Do we want someone that's gonna hold people accountable in certain ways of doing things the right way when you're playing basketball, or do we want to take these guys on a picnic?
But it's not about that. Every team that you coach, let me tell you something. You can have a team of 15 players. If you take one guy away and add a new player, you have a brand new team, because that player brings in you have a brand new player. The chemistry can change right away because of one player. The way that player addresses players, whatever it is. But so sometimes, every coaching style is not going to work for every player on your team. You can get lucky and have a team that one coaching style works, but for the most part, you've got to be able to reach players where they're at. I don't care what generation you're playing in either. You got to be able to reach players where they're at. If you watched the Michael Jordan thing, forgot the name of it, right? What happened with Dennis Rodman? Dennis Rodman came and said, in the middle of whatever it was, I need a vacation. I need a vacation.
Yeah, but remember,
hold on. Listen. Get my point first. Get my point. Okay. Right? I need a vacation. Right? I gotta go. I gotta go get away. Phil Jackson talks to Michael Jordan and says, yeah, Dennis needs a vacation. He's like, what? You just gonna let him go? Listen, we gotta let him go. We gotta let him go and do him. So they let him go. Right? Because Phil Jackson, what he understood is everybody's different. Dennis Rodman is not Michael Jordan. I've got to be able to coach guys. I got to coach to some people's personalities. That doesn't mean that you take away your values. Right? You still have your values and your standards, but you just might have to find ways to reach guys at their level.
So Sim, imagine, right? In those times, if media would have found out when that occurred. Because remember, what you just explained to me, that's years after. So just imagine in real time, say if Coach Tibbs is coaching Kevin Knox, and Kevin Knox said, yo, I need to go play Fortnite.
Yo, I'm not talking about no. I'm not talking about letting a guy go on a vacation or letting a guy go play Fortnite. What I'm talking about is Phil Jackson knowing who Dennis Rodman was and what he did. He was like, I got to coach him different. If I am going to get, and of course, this is a championship level team, right? This is a championship level team. But if I'm going to get the best out of Dennis Rodman, I got to coach him differently than I coach Michael Jordan. I got to coach Scottie differently than I coach Michael Jordan or Horace Grant, because each person they have a different personality. I've got to address them and be with them in a certain kind of way. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of like that. Example, Mark? And it's like that with players too. You don't give up if part of your values is just straight up working hard. And if a player doesn't work hard, it's not like you say, okay, you know what? I'm going to let this guy not work hard. No, that's not what you do. You uphold your values. You know what I'm saying? But you may have to address this guy. You may not be able to scream at this guy and holler to make him work hard. You might have to say, I'm not screaming at him, but I'm not putting his ass in the game. Or, he's going to get these. Or I might have to call his mother if it's a young kid. You know what I'm saying? So seriously. So there's different ways you got to address them.
So Sim, okay, number one, I want to say this. In the time frame when Tibbs had got Carlin Towns and Wiggins, right? They haven't proved anything. So we as players, right? I would respect if supposedly he really got to coach Derrick Rose in his prime if he was healthy. And then Derrick Rose came out in real time at that time and said, listen, I don't like how Coach Tibbs is blah, 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 because Derrick Rose is more of a proven player compared to these two players. So Derrick Rose has a little more cachet. So personally, me, I don't want to hear nothing from Wiggins and Karl Towns so they prove themselves into winning players. These guys wasn't winning players. So if you bring on a coach that has a way of getting consistency out of his players, and these are the only two that complained about out of all the players who he has coached. These are the only two. Two of the unproven players. Until these days, these two are unproven players. You got Wiggins in Golden State, and you got Karl Towns stuck in Minnesota. So we got to see if he's going to elevate to a next level with D'Angelo Russell. I think as good as Karl Towns, he still has no cachet because I still can't get that out of my head how you allowed Capella to just
okay. Well,
destroy him.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, still, I think every coach should look at themselves. You've got to take some evaluation of yourself. You have other people evaluate you. You evaluate yourself and say, okay, what could I have done better in Minnesota? Obviously, everything's not going to be his fault. Maybe he doesn't, the players didn't mesh with him, but, did he? Because, listen, he did great in Chicago, had players that meshed with his style.
I think it was
right?
Wiggins and Towns.
Hold on, but listen. Everything meshed with his style, right? Any coach in the NBA, if you lose a job, it may not be all your fault. 90% of it may not be your fault, but still, you should still look at yourself and say, what could I have done differently? What could I have done better? And how will I take that to my next coaching job?
Okay, so then we have to look at Kenny Atkinson then, like that way then.
Well, of course. Any coach. I know. Yeah, there's no difference between Kenny Atkinson.
Oh no, because
who say
sometimes
no difference? No. I mean,
no, because
no difference because my question with Kenny is if there was an issue with knowing how he coaches, right? This equal opportunity style of play. Mm-hmm. Will he always have an issue if you have a star player come in? Will there always be an issue there? That's a question that I have about Kenny Atkinson.
And I think that's an issue right there because as star players and proven star players, they see that. Because certain star players like to play with players that are what's the word for it? Awareness to a point where it's like just because he give you equal opportunity to do things, that don't mean you do all those crazy stuff when I'm on the floor. I think that's what Kyrie, and that's a good thing that you brought that up because I wasn't even thinking that. I don't think Kyrie and Kevin Durant like that because it's like they look at themselves, they was on the floor. You just gonna allow Spencer Dinwiddie just jack up shots? Because if you watch Spencer Dinwiddie, man, he's a jacker. He's a jacker, man. So that kind of make a lot of sense when you say that because when you look at the Brooklyn Nets, it was an equal opportunity thing. Mm-hmm. There wasn't much of a structure to a point where players get pulled back from doing certain things. Just like how you would see Coach Pop teach coaches his guys. They don't really do anything out of whack. They do things like they've been taught properly. They've been taught and this even for players that's just plugged in. Like this is what you're gonna do. This is how the offense is going to be.
Mark, have you ever seen how Popovich used to mug Tim Duncan when Tim Duncan used to come to the sidelines? And Tim Duncan is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, no, he used Tim Duncan as an example for other guys. I don't think he really comes down on Tim Duncan where it's like, yo, listen. He comes down more to make other players better.
To a higher standard.
To make other players better. That's what he used to do.
The visual, though, is when Tim Duncan did something, man, Popovich, the visual, though, is that when Tim Duncan did something that wasn't quite right, Popovich would be all over him.
Yeah, he did that with Parker and Ginobili, too.
Yeah,
exactly.
And Sim, the only reason why I like Tom Thibodeau is because I look at RJ, and I just when I listen to him when he talks in interviews, this dude is a winning player. So I want to bring in
day one.
So I want to bring in a coach that's gonna put him in positions where he wants to be great. He wants to see winning basketball, and I think a player like RJ, where he has weaknesses that is not going to develop this year, next year, maybe the third year. I think he's going to put him in position because if you watch his Bulls days and the players. You have to put Tom Thibodeau's coaching in context because a lot of his players was dipping out of injury. So whatever play he had, and whoever was the most talented at the time, he put them into position to be the best player for that roster to utilize other players so they can be better. So
Derrick Rose had major flaws. Derrick Rose, two major flaws is he's not going to play defense and he's not going to.
No, you wildin'. Derrick Rose was a defender. Stop it, Freezy. Freezy, Derrick Rose was a defender.
I saw Derrick Rose play in New York, dog. I saw Derrick Rose.
Everybody went by.
The reason why we drafted Frank Ntilikina. The reason why I drafted Frank is because we got tired of a dude that wouldn't play defense, and he would play defense in Chicago. He was fortunate though that his other skills, right? He was fortunate that his other skills were otherworldly, and Thibodeau took advantage of that. The point I was getting at is,
do you realize you're talking about you're talking about two types of Derrick Rose right now? I'm talking about the young, fresh Derrick Rose. I ain't talking about the Knicks. We all knew that Knicks team was going to go somewhere else. And we didn't even want to bring back Derrick Rose the next year, even though his stats looked good. We just didn't want to bring him back because he wasn't the old Derrick Rose. When we talk about Derrick Rose, everybody reminiscing the old Derrick Rose instead of the Derrick Rose we see today.
Can I ask you a question on Thibodeau? Can I ask you a question real quick? Because you said that Thibodeau will put players in a position to do this and that, right? So when we talk about RJ Barrett, right, what are his flaws? His flaws is shooting.
Especially
three-point shooting.
And pick and roll. Defender. He's not very good in pick and roll because of the lack of speed and foot movement. And I told everybody from the beginning. So can you tell me a
player that's played under top Thibodeau? They don't have to necessarily mirror RJ Barrett, but he made them a better three-point shooter.
Jimmy Butler. I look at Jimmy Butler. He put Jimmy Butler into so many spots for him to become the offensive player that he is today. He does not like taking threes. He does not like taking. He's a
but then RJ Barrett, we just talked about. He has to work on that because he's going to be playing at the three. He has to learn how to space the floor, regardless. Even if he plays with a two that can space the floor as well, he has to learn how to do that. So Butler plays from the post a lot, which it doesn't more so with the Heat. I don't know how much he played with the Wolves. I can imagine because he developed it somewhere. So are we gonna see this thing about Thibodeau, right? I'm scared that Thibodeau will take what RJ Barrett is already strong at and maximize it versus a guy who may be able to take what he's good at and use it to build his confidence at a stable level and then work on his weaknesses so his overall value is that much higher.
Gammo, hold on. RJ was not utilized correctly in New York this season, bro.
Exactly.
He should have been more in the post a lot. He was more on the perimeter, bro.
Yeah.
He was highly on the perimeter. I kept harping on every Knicks game. Get him close to the basket because he's a bruiser. This kid is a bruiser. When he wants to go to the basket, there's no one that can stop him. I want him to polish that now more than later because what that creates for the Knicks is when we put right shooters around him, it's going to create his passing ability.
But how does Tom Thibodeau work on his weaknesses to make his team that much higher?
So as of right now, we're talking about if we bring in Tom Thibodeau right today, what I want to see from RJ is more around the rim area. Improve on that first because again, it's only his second year. So he's gonna take threes. He's gonna be in the corners. He's gonna take threes. But I want him to create for this team because this team had no type of creators, man. We watched the Knicks this season. There was no creators on this team.
RJ is a creator. And to Mark's point though, as the third option for the New York Knicks, RJ Barrett averaged 13.8 points a game. After the Marcus Morris trade, RJ Barrett averaged 17.8 points a game. RJ Barrett is the number one option for the Knicks.
Okay, let me ask you guys this before because I want to move on to something else now. But before we do that, do you think management, Leon Rose, all them guys, Scott Perry, do you think they're talking to RJ Barrett, or when they have someone that they're thinking about, say, hey, what do you think? Not that they're taking it from him saying, oh, RJ Barrett likes this guy, we got to do this, but at least saying to him, what do you think about this guy?
Sim, they have to talk to him because he's the only guy that wants to be here, man. And then he relished. Like it's like when you watch him, he wants to be here, bro. So of course you have to put some inputs in because he
And
wants to
wants to
win.
be great.
And
And
you
wants to be
don't-
great.
And you don't want him to be disgruntled because you get him disgruntled, another young Knicks player getting traded from the Knicks, and what that does to the Knicks in the media.
But Mark,
Knicks mess up again.
Sim asked if they're doing it, not
Right.
He said he's asking
Yeah,
if they're doing it.
Yeah, because I think he's the most valuable asset at this point for us.
Yeah, but you have many teams who don't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have many times. Look at Cousins, right? He had that one coach that he actually liked, but I'm pretty sure when they went through how many coaches, I think he had like 3 coaches with the Kings. They probably didn't ask him who the hell he wants. And I think that what you're saying is right in theory.
Yeah.
But the thing about RJ, I always say this, right? So they might be doing it just because I think that RJ Barrett may have been behind some of those leaks that said the whole thing with Randall and that stuff. So he has people in places like he has Steve Nash. I'm pretty sure he has some NBA people who are looking out for his best interest. But if you put it out to the public, like, oh yeah, Knicks rumors, Knicks talk with RJ Barrett to confer, to see, who he likes, you might be setting a precedent that RJ Barrett has this big head. And I think that RJ Barrett and his handlers are trying to put RJ Barrett, and rightfully so, he might be this in real life, regardless of, that he's a humble dude, he's a hard worker. So if they come back and say, yo, RJ Barrett's been, the team had to speak to RJ Barrett to see which coaches, right? It might be like, oh, this guy thinks he's a freaking superstar.
Right.
Like,
I mean, because, I think that any player, in my opinion, any player that you consider to be part of your core, when you're hiring a coach, and you may not be taking, and saying, okay, RJ Barrett doesn't like this guy, we're definitely not going to hire him, or RJ Barrett really likes this guy, we're definitely going to hire him. You take the input,
consideration.
The players that you have that are your core players, you say, let me just talk to them. Let's see how they feel about it. I mean, that to me, that's just smart. Any employer does that with their employees. If they're going to hire, they have someone who's a supervisor, or they're hiring a new supervisor, and they get to meet the staff. And then not all places, some places they just throw the person in there, but a lot of places they'll say, well, let's talk to the staff, how did you guys feel about this person? You know what I'm saying? Because you got to keep, you got to make sure that you want that input. You want to get that kind of input. We'll see if they are. I don't know.
Sim, when I look at RJ, and I started to really, 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 really like him over this as we have him. When I watch his demeanor, I like serious people. I get along with serious people because they're about what they do. And when I watch him, he's about his stuff. What do we want in a player? It's about his stuff. To play in New York, you have to be about your stuff. You cannot be wishy-washy. I will see that from a mile long away. So when it comes to him and where we at now, we have to pay attention to him most likely, because I believe that he's going to want to get better and that he's going to want to see progress. We all want to see progress.
Okay. All right. I mean,
Sim, do you think, hey, Sim, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you think that he's earned it? He hasn't even played a full year yet.
I mean, but I'm not talking about giving him decision-making power.
No.
Right? I mean, because if I'm Scott Perry and Leon Rose, I ask RJ, say, hey, what do you think about this guy? I asked Mitch, what do you think about this guy? I mean, to me, listen, these guys have to be coached by this person. You may say, listen, RJ may be like, I don't know, man. He seems like he's going to drive us into the ground. And you still may make the decision to hire him, but now you've heard from RJ and you can say, hey, Tom, this is what RJ thinks. Talk to him. You know what I'm saying? Let them know, hey, this is how we're going to use you. This is what practice is going to be like. Like, that's how, I just think that's a good way to do it. I had, coaching my girls, we had a guy that we were going to bring in as an assistant. We had him come in one day and just do some work, because we knew he could do some work, just do some work. And then afterwards, we talked to the group and said, hey, he'd like to come on and work with us longer. How do you like this guy? How do you feel? You know what I'm saying? And they said, hey, we like him, we like what he does, and there you go. And I got to remind people, Nate, mute yourself if you're going to talk to someone else, please, because we don't need your personal conversation over the show. You don't want that out there. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I just think, right, listen, if Kenny get hired, I'm going to have to deal with it, right? But it's like, because him and Tibbs is like in the same boat. It's like they both left the team in the same type of position where the stars of the team. Well, with Kenny, with Tom Thibodeau, I felt like you should have gave him because he was improving that team in some aspects, and that was a younger team. But due to those stars that was unproven, I think he got a fair shake. You can fire him from the GM because I don't think coaches should be GMs. I just don't like that position. Just don't. I don't care who it is. I think if you would have gave Tibbs one more year with the Wolves, I think things would have been a little different. But what shook up the Timberwolves was that Jimmy Butler and that Wiggins contract. That was the sole purpose.
Yeah. Well, we'll see, man. We'll see. July is July 9th. We got a couple of weeks and we'll find out. Big shout out to Big Freezy. Thank you, man. You became a 1970s NBA champion member. I appreciate you for that. Bravo 1982 gave a shout out to me and Guillermo because we were the only ones on at one point. Justin just joined us in the chat. Big shout out to you. Said that's why we need Kenny's equal opportunity system. That was a conversation we were having a while ago, but you know who Justin wants. And then otherwise, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you, man.
I'm surprised you didn't talk about that article that came up the other day about how I meant to talk about this. I want to come on the chat and talk about this about when they put Steve Mills in office, it was because of World Wide West.
Well, I was actually just getting ready to transition into that. So thank you for the transition. Thank you for the alley-oop. Mark threw me the oop. I'm about to catch it and reverse it.
Yeah. Matter of fact, 360 that Vince Carter style because
bomb. That's what I'm talking about. So, article came out last week about World Wide West.
That one.
That he has a long history with the Knicks. Long history with respect to Jim Dolan. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna read it out. It says sources confirm Wesley has been in the Knicks owner's ear for 15 years, working behind the scenes. For 15 years, working behind the scenes as custom for World Wide West. All right.
Oh yeah.
A Knicks coach from the Glenn Grunwald era verified the influence of World Wide West. When we were there, I was told he listened to World Wide West more than he listened to Grunwald. All right. And I don't know who got their phone ringing in the background. But if you guys could put yourself on mute while I'm reading this out. All right. Indeed, Wesley has been free with advice for Dolan, but not all of it constructive. The Post has learned that Wesley was a driving force behind Dolan moving on from Grunwald after a 54-28 season 4 days before the 2013 training camp. I remember that vividly. All right. Wesley recommended bringing back Steve Mills, citing stronger connections. All right. At the time, the Post reported Grunwald's firing as linked to the 2015 free agent aspirations. In addition, the new chief needed to prepare for a bid to keep Carmelo Anthony. In the ensuing summer of 2014, Anthony was represented by Creative Artists Agency, and Mills was reputed to have close ties to CAA. Wesley, according to a source, served as a chief confidant of Anthony's during his New York Knicks stint. Now, CAA is officially running the Knicks with the Leon Rose Wesley tandem. After Rose agreed to terms in February, the Post quoted a source stating that MSG and CAA have been in bed for years. This should not be surprising, and we all knew that, right? We all knew that.
But Sam,
let me finish it up. Wesley's push to remove Grunwald didn't work out, as we know. The Knicks have missed the playoffs 7 straight seasons. And though Dolan deviated 6 months after firing Grunwald to bring in Phil Jackson. So after firing Grunwald, it's all been downhill since then. You know what I mean? I don't know. What do you think about it, man?
Sam, I remember.
Is that the reason why Porzingis is gone?
That's Steve Mills' fault. But anyway,
I mean, but World Wide West said bring in Steve Mills.
Right.
Oh my God.
Right. So they can bring in other CAA. Is Porzingis a CAA client?
No. He's his brother is his agent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sim,
So-
I'm going to recite what Gammo said in a few streams back. And this is kind of scary to me because you see a lot of these dudes when you grow up in the hood. These are the type of dudes that get into a position because they force themselves into a position. And when they get there, they start infiltrating all they guys into the spot, which could be a bad thing depending on the situation. But when I read he was the reason for the Eddie Curry deal, the Bogani trade, and I'm going to say now that Carmelo thing, that when Dolan pushed the button on that Carmelo thing, and they get rid of Grunwald, and then getting rid of Grunwald, we liked the Grunwald because he cleaned it up. And when the Knicks fans see that, and the way how he constructed the team, and he's behind all of this, when I seen the article, I stepped back. I did a James Harden step back, bro. Like, nah, bro. I'm afraid because now, what are they going to do in free agency when the time comes? What are they going to do? Who are they going to bring here? Because all those players that they did made bad deals. That Bogani trade would stick to me forever because we didn't have to make that. That Eddie Curry at the time was like the worst deal when they told you that was the worst deal to make. And then to put in the infamous Steve Mills into power, yeah, he lost a lot of points for me, Sam. Listen, I don't trust him, man. I don't trust him. No.
Well, the thing that we have to look at now is what is his role, because there he was a consultant to James Dolan. Now, but now you have Leon Rose. He's under Leon Rose. We don't know, is he a plant? Is he a plant for James Dolan to say, hey, I want you to let me know what's going on? I doubt it, because Leon Rose and World Wide West have the same type of relationship, right? Long relationship. So what is his role? Is his role to just go out and schmooze with these other teams and do those type of things? No, he's not a consultant. No, he's not a consultant. He is part of management. He's not a consultant.
So, but hold on. But
yeah, he is a vice president.
Okay, he could be. He's also like a consultant. He could put his 2 cents into stuff.
I mean, of course. He's going to put his 2 cents into stuff. But still, what is his role? Are they saying, hey, we need you to go out and use your connections to get this, that, and the other thing done?
So I have a question. I have one question. With Scott Perry here for the 1 year, and isn't Masai Ujiri contract is over next year?
Bro, Masai, he's not coming. He's not coming. He's not coming. He's not coming. He's not gonna.
Leon Rose have the same role. Him and Leon Rose have the same role.
Yeah, why would he come to work under Leon Rose? That's not happening. He's not coming here to work under Leon Rose.
Right. You're right. Cause I was thinking of GM, and it's like, oh, my bad. I forgot.
Yeah, he's not coming to work under Leon Rose. That's not happening next year.
God damn it! But
it's not
listen,
happening.
Man. Like I said, I'm stepping back from World Wide West, and I'm still weary of Leon Rose, even though I think he's going to make power moves. But I'm just wary of those two now, since they was behind, because a lot of those players was part of CAA. And then Leon Rose was their agent, and they signed here with those terrible contracts and terrible players. So I'm kind of stepping back from these two guys until proven, okay? Because that scared me. When I seen Steve Mills, he was.
But Mark, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid in 2020? What are you afraid of? I mean, you're afraid the Knicks won't win 30 games this year?
No, I'm afraid
we didn't win 30 games last year. We didn't win.
I think he's talking about within the front office. You don't want a guy who has his own agenda and he's bringing in people and it messes up.
Yeah,
but even with that though, my question is even with that. So if he gets in and mess up, you think the team can get worse than it is right now based on record?
Yes,
bro.
I mean,
it can't get any worse.
Hold on, Sim. Hold on.
It can't.
Hold on. You can have a team that did not draft R.J. Barrett or Mitch, and a team where they're drafting guys who are terrible, and you go back to literally a 15-win or 20-some win team. You could literally it could be worse than this.
And you know how else? You know, your record could get better and it still be worse.
Not even
right?
that, Sam.
I mean, but one second, Mark. Your record could get better. Like, let's say, for example, they sold out the farm and said, you know what, we're going to try to make this run. And they did a bunch of crazy, wild stuff, moved a whole bunch of young players, moved draft picks to try to bring in disgruntled stars and do all this stuff. And, yeah, they put together a team that makes the 7th seed, but then now you're hamstrung. That's a worse position than they are now. You know what I'm saying? It could be scary, you know, when you think about some of the decisions that he you know, gave influence to. It could be scary, but I feel good about Leon Rose, though.
Now, there's a belief. I think he's going to do right of what he's doing in the front office, what he's putting together. I'm cool with that. But what Knicks fans don't tend to realize that we took a 5-year step back from where we was in 2018. Do you realize one move can cost this team another 5-year step back? That's what I'm worried about.
What 5-year step back? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Huh?
What 5-year step back you talking about? We was already back.
Okay. No. Hold on. 2018, when we was making progress, when we was somewhat of a playoff team, there was identity.
2018, we were somewhat of a playoff
17.
team.
Do you mean before KP got hurt?
Yeah, before KP got hurt.
Okay, I know what you're saying. Okay.
We was trending. I'm going from there. We was trending. Can we all agree with that? We was trending somewhere. We had an identity. We knew who our guys.
I'm not sure. It's hard to say. I don't know.
Listen, no. We was winning games, and every game we had a game plan what we was going to do. That's an identity to me when we was going through games, and everything
a lot of that
had
rested
to.
on KP. Once KP.
Yeah, no.
And we were very player. We were more player reliant versus system reliant. So
yes.
Yeah, you're right. But when you have that particular player that can show you that, listen, with me here, and you can bring other players to come play with me, okay, we can start from there.
I don't know if people were clamoring to come play with KP, but go ahead.
But again, that's not a good example, because you know what's better than that? You having a system where you could draft a KP, but you have guys who can fill in the lack of production if he goes down, right? You have that's the whole point of a system, right? So put it like this, like I keep talking about this, even with the Brooklyn Nets, and I mean they did better with him. The fact that you had a guy like Dinwiddie who stepped into Kyrie Irving's place and actually did better, that speaks to, well, not say did better individually, but was better for that system. You know what I mean? I just think that when we reminisce about the Knicks, that's not really a good example, because yes, you put up MVP numbers for a half, and then even then, KP always goes through he falls at the second half. So I'm not sure that system or that version of the Knicks was sustainable.
Listen.
Even if he was healthy.
We was winning, and we was playing for the playoffs. So that's an actual fact before he went down.
24-16, that's too early, bro.
Hold on. And I felt like we was trending towards something because he was winning games. Now, if we was losing games when he was here, then I'll say, oh, it's a little different now.
So we started out the season okay. But when we started staying in January, we lost 6 out of 9 before my man got hurt.
Okay, so now
my man got.
We traded for an injured player. He's not coming back here. I think he's going to be gone, right? We traded the asset for injured play because now the asset is over there putting up all-star numbers. So, again, that makes my point. So, when you're trading a player of that magnitude, we're taking step back. For an NBA team, when you lose players that shows a level of consistency and that he can be your staple, part of your staple of your team, your face of your team, yeah, you can
that's not a fair comparison, Mark, because Rick Carlisle is a championship level coach. Rick Carlisle
doesn't matter. The kid has talent.
It does matter because we had David Fizdale. I mean, we comparing Fizdale to Rick Carlisle, and they have a Luka Doncic. We don't have a Luka. So just to see that KP went there and started putting up all-star numbers just in a vacuum. It's crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Mark, the best time we actually had a system that was like a discernible system where you didn't rely on just one player was all the way back with D'Antoni when he had that team before they made the Melo trade. I mean, you had guys like I'll say it all the time, Landry Fields, who was like, fourth in Rookie of the Year voting?
He was second
at one point, but I think full year, I think he was – I checked it again. I think he was actually fourth, but I'll go back and check. Right? You had guys like Gallo, who was finally coming through, driving to the basket, getting fouled. You had guys like Wilson Chandler shooting, I think, close to 39% or 40% from three, a guy who could not shoot from the ball, giving you like 15, 16 points a game. You know what I mean? You had even Mozgov, who was finding his way. You had Felton. And I didn't even mention Felton and Stoudemire had probably one of the more underrated pick and rolls in the league in terms of its effectiveness. So you had a team that, you look at that team, you're not looking, even Stoudemire, older age, you're not talking about, all right, if Stoudemire comes out, blah, blah, because you can still run the pick and roll with Mozgov and depend more on your perimeter shooters, because Mozgov is not Amari Stoudemire, at least even that first year. That's a system. The KP thing was nice. Him and Frank with that nice pick and pop. But again,
we love
on one guy.
But hold on.
KP opened the game up for everybody else because, yes, he's that good of a shooter. You have to respect him. But
a lot of teams, even with, we look at Phoenix when it was heavily on Devin Booker, right? Mm-hmm. But you can say to yourself, okay, I can do something with Devin Booker, even though I don't have the system around him yet. But he is a player that if I get a coach to put around it and a system to put around him, I can say, okay, this is a piece. This is a big piece that I can say he can help me recruit players or get better with this team. That's how
Devin Booker is not a game changer, man. Devin Booker is a scorer.
Bro, do you realize? Wait, hold on. See, this is what gets me mad.
I don't care what gets you mad. I'm telling you, Devin Booker is not a game changer. Devin Booker is an excellent offensive scorer, but when he crosses the timeline to play defense, he doesn't play D. And to say that all we have to do is point at the Phoenix Suns win-loss record, because Devin Booker is an Alex English. For those that remember back then, he could score. But anything on the other side of the timeline, he's giving you absolutely defense.
So now you can prove his point, Mark, because you're saying Devin Booker in the year he improved.
I want Sim to bring up Devin Booker defensive efficiency because he improved this year in all aspects, from shooting, from playmaking.
You said defensive.
Oh no, he improved because he improved because he has a defensive coach. He went out there and defended the season.
His defensive rating, I think, worsened this year, bro.
No, it couldn't be. Because if you watch him,
I covered it on Sportscaster, bro. I think it worsened. Hold on. Right. I'm pretty sure it worsened this year, bro.
It's the same thing with Bradley Beal. It's like you want to trade everything for Bradley Beal or Devin Booker, and they give you everything on offense, but nothing on D.
See, now wishy-washy.
It's slightly improved from 115.1 to 112.5.
Okay, so
still bad. That's still bad. It ranks pretty terribly. He
improved. He improved just like a shooting percentage improved. He improved. He got a new coach that gave him an identity. Said we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and they're going to
offensively. He definitely improved.
Hold on, and they're going to center. They're going to okay. This is what I'm talking about. NBA team has to find a player who they can center around to start something. So just how we look at RJ and we don't want to lose it for nothing, we have to center things around the most talented player that we have. Okay. That's the only way a team is going to get better. I'm not talking about a whole bunch of role players, because a whole bunch of role players ain't going to get you the playoff. You have to have that one identified player that can do something consistently from night to night to night to night to night to night.
Right. Okay? I agree. Okay. I agree with you. I agree with you on that. But to say that Devin Booker, to imply that Devin Booker or Kristaps Porzingis is transcendent.
Devin Booker is a 22-year-old. Devin Booker is a 22-year-old, 25 point scorer, shooting over 48%. What young player you wouldn't with that trajectory? Why wouldn't you? Any team right now would trade for Devin Booker in a heartbeat if he was on the thing. That tells you a lot. So we talk about Bradley Beal. Everybody wants Bradley Beal, but his team is losing. But they're going to surround everything around Bradley Beal now. You have to have that one player that can do something consistently every night to give a team an identity. Just like the Washington Wizards, what they're going to do? They want to keep Bradley Beal because he's valuable to that team. And at the time, Porzingis was valuable because he was showing you in his fourth year that he could do something consistently from night to night to night. And that's what it was.
I'm willing to hedge my bet and say that drafting a team organically and having them develop chemistry by playing through bad moments together makes a team into a team. Having one guy try to carry a franchise is a situation that never works. You've never seen a one-man show win a championship. Even Magic Johnson
Well,
Even Magic Johnson had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Jordan had Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, John Sally, Dennis Rodman. Larry Bird had Robert Patterson,
listen,
Danny Ainge, Dennis Johnson.
we're talking about young players. We're not talking about guys in their prime. It's two totally different things, man. You have to evaluate two different things.
Devin Booker, I'll give this, right? Devin Booker, they're level sis, right? So when you look at like a Giannis, right? Or to people, a LeBron in his prime, right? Those are guys, they're really only like 3 or 4 superstars who superstars as in they come into your team. You don't even have to bring a drawing board and they get you 40, 50 wins just off the strength, right? Devin Booker's not that. But what I'll say about Devin Booker, Devin Booker is one of these guys. And it happened with Curry too, because when Curry first came in the league, Curry was always averaging over 40% from three.
Always
19 points a game, I think, his rookie year. But when you look at, you had to build a proper system around him. So what I'll say about Devin Booker is that if you build a proper system around Devin Booker, as you've seen this year, where I covered this after, dude, his usage rate is falling. When you take a usage rate like say LeBron or take a Melo or even a Kobe, you take down a usage rate because they're volume shooters, their effectiveness goes down. A guy like Devin Booker, his effectiveness with lesser usage.
But the Bucks also drafted Jabari Parker, Chris Middleton, Malcolm Brogdon. So they drafted a young team along with Giannis, so they developed together. You didn't have Giannis.
Everybody needs help.
And the same thing with Steph Curry. Steph Curry had Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and the other draft picks they had. So those guys all developed together. So to say the person brings one thing every night may be a good point, but they also had other guys that were drafted around their same age range. Okay, all right. Never mind. Steph Curry didn't have Klay Thompson and Giannis.
Okay, let me get to this. Let me get to this caller. Caller, you live, man? What's popping?
Yo, what's up, Tim?
What's going on with you, man?
Hanging out, man.
So, you heard us talking about a lot. We've been through a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
What's your take on anything?
Well, I was with Mark, and then I was against him. And you got to give it up, man. Porzingis, we lucked out on Porzingis. Dallas has got to pay that man $153 million, man, or $150 million. We don't know if he's going to make the whole end of the contract. He only played half the time with the Knicks. So just give up on that dream. And then with Thibodeau, I think he's a good coach. I went over and looked over his, the way the teams performed. And if you give him some shooters, he's going to build you a defensive team. I think he just messed up. And like most coaches that take on that GM role, it's too much for a coach. Coaches shouldn't be the GM. You got to go and cut a guy. You got to tell a guy he's traded. And then you got to coach him to play the best and ask him to give you everything. It's an impossible task. So I think that's where that failed in Minnesota when they gave him the GM job. And then with Worldwide West, what do you think he's going to do? He's trying to get his guys paid. I'm getting Eddie Curry paid. Who's going to pay him? The Knicks always pay. Yeah. I'm going to go and tell Dolan, get Curry. Get Amari, get my guys, keep all my guys and and pay them very well. And now, like Guillermo said a couple weeks ago, now that's our snake. I'm glad, I'll take it. I mean, what are we going to do? I can't argue that he got Bargnani paid. I mean, he's not loyal to the Knicks at the time.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, he was James Dolan's boy, but I feel they've been boys for the last 15 years. That was his boy. So if that was his boy, you would think you would be like, I'm not gonna do that to my man.
Yeah, so. But I mean, if Andre Bargnani played up to his potential, we don't know. He decided not to play. Eddie Curry, there was some crazy circumstances that man went under for him not. People forget in 2006, Eddie Curry was a borderline all-star till he got hurt. I mean, he was right there with everybody. And I watched a couple of Knicks games from 2006 for the last couple of weeks. I mean,
that was a nice little team we had. That was a nice little team, and I wish we didn't run it back. But I mean, A. Curry was playing like a borderline all-star, so I mean, it's not like he gave them bums. I mean, he was in his ear, and then the Ernie Grunwald thing. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about. I'm
gonna tell you, it was the craziest. It was the craziest thing at the beginning of that season when we just heard that Ernie Grunwald was let go. I was like, the hell just happened? We just came off a great season. I mean, you know, we expected more. I think we expected probably Eastern Conference Finals, but we came off of the best season that we'd had in a decade, and then, you know, we shake things up for no apparent reason at all. But yeah.
Well, I don't know, because I remember. I don't know if everybody else remembers, but I remember Raymond Felton when he got that gun charge against his girlfriend. That man fell off a cliff. The Knicks were in playoff contention. I think we even had the 7th seed. And then we went on the West Coast trip from hell. And I mean, everybody, Jarrett Jack, every B-level guard ate Ray Felton up for like 5 games straight. And we plummeted out of the playoffs. So I mean,
we had a lot of injuries. We had a lot of injuries though that year.
No, but we were cemented in the playoffs, and then I remember we went on a West Coast.
I don't know if we were cemented.
Ray Felton was going to court for that gun charge.
Yeah, I remember that.
Where he attacked his girlfriend, and he was in the middle of going to court and everything, and that man fell off a cliff. Because I remember that's the game Jarrett Jack when we played Golden State. Jarrett Jack destroyed us. That's why we picked him up the next year.
I mean, listen. I feel you. I mean, but you know, we had a lot of Tyson Chandler, J.R. Smith, Amari Stoudemire. You know, there a lot of injuries that season.
Yeah, I'm not saying we would have won in the playoffs. I'm not saying, but I definitely remember that we were like, you know, we were in the playoffs. We were the 7-3 seed, pretty well cemented. And then we went on that West Coast trip because I remember, like, me and my old man, like, just sickened. Every time Ray Felton went out there was nothing. He was just not even a human being.
Yeah, I remember that.
So,
I remember that.
And, I mean, we probably would have lost in the first round, but, hey, that would have been another year Carmelo had in the playoffs. And that would have been 4 years straight. I would have, you know, I looked at it a little different. And then I also remember, like, Knicks fans had bags on their heads. That's why they hired Phil Jackson. I mean,
well, but still, you know, I mean, you started shaking things up from the beginning of the season by making that move. You know, you started shaking things up. It just wasn't a good sign. But hey, my man, I appreciate the call, man, and thank you for being patient.
No, thank you very much, and thank you, man. You're saving us, man. You're saving.
Appreciate you, my man. Appreciate it. We get to another call here. Caller, you live. What's popping?
Hey, how
Hello?
you doing?
I'm good, brother. How you feeling?
Man, I was just looking at everything going on, y'all brothers' conversation. So look, I'm in Philly, right? And it's like hard for me being a Knicks fan. So it's like now everybody always, oh, Knicks never gonna be nothing. Knicks never gonna be this. It started at the front office. The front office is the main problem. 2, I feel like we all need to work on my man R.J. Barrett. Because he all we got. He all we got. He want to be there. He's all we got. Frank deserve a shot. Now, I'm not saying if we grab Lonzo Ball, that's an if, because we thought we was going to get Zion. I ain't trying to do ifs no more. I'm trying to do what we got now. We might got to trade Mitchell Robinson, too, if he don't develop. All that alley-hoop stuff, it ain't going to cut it if he can't shoot a consistent mid-range. So we going to see this year before we pay that man. But I just wanted to tune in and just say my thoughts.
All right. I appreciate you, man. Hey, you know, just, you know, keep repping out there in Philly, though.
For sure.
You know, big Knicks fans out there.
I'm aware in Vegas.
Yeah, man. You know, keep repping. I know how them Philly fans can be, but keep repping, man. We got your back, though.
Y'all take care. Enjoy. I love watching y'all show, man. Y'all brothers doing a good job.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you for calling in. Thank you for following it.
Sim, I love that caller. He
Peace.
was quick in logic.
Yeah, I mean, everybody ain't
bro.
always like that, right?
Because the last caller, yo, listen, man, if y'all was dependent on him to save y'all life, he'd have got y'all ran over, honestly. Because I don't know what he was talking about. The Knicks could have made the play of the year when we had nothing but injuries, man. And I'll be the crazy one on this chat. Oh my God.
Mike Woodson said that was his most proudest coaching moment that season. He said because they fell out of the playoffs, and then at the end of the season they made a run and they missed the playoffs by one game. He said he was just proud of the way this players really tried to stick in there with everything that happened throughout the season.
I think he's a guy that always could have a locker room, and I wouldn't mind Woody coming back, man.
As an assistant,
I think he's relatable in every sort of way.
I would love to have him back. I would love to have him back.
Okay.
I would love to have Woody back. I think that if he came back as an assistant, I think he'd be good for all the guys. I think he'd be good for him. Hold up, Rel. Thank you for the super chat. He said Knox's defense. All right, he's just trolling. He's just trolling. He's just trying to get a rise out of you guys.
Yeah,
he said Knox is a better offensive player than RJ.
No. Wait, hold on.
He's trying to get a rise.
No. Sim. That's debatable.
He's not a better offensive player. He's not a better offensive player than RJ. Not right now, at least.
Wait. I'm sorry. Who?
Kevin Knox. Just what
he's not a better offensive player than RJ.
Stop.
Not right now.
Sim, don't even. Sim, stop that.
Stop what? Stop what? I said not right now. I mean, he's going to continue to play.
Now, we're not talking about tomorrow. We're not talking about next year. We're talking about now. Don't try to add it. Well, right? No. Now.
No, because Mark. No. Because you got to listen. See, you got to listen because Mark was getting ready to talk about Kevin Knox and what he has the ability to do. And so I said he's not a better offensive player. Not right now because you don't know what Kevin Knox is going to be or do.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm looking at him. I'm just looking at his skill set totality. I'm just looking at what Kevin Knox can do. Not saying what he is right now, saying what he can do. It's kind of debatable because Kevin Knox can shoot better than Knox, and you would take a shooter.
Here's a question for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think would be better? Because if Knox plays on the Atkinson, I'll put money he's gonna have space to shoot. He's gonna have a lot of chances to shoot out on the wing, right?
That's why we need Atkinson.
You think Tom Thibodeau would be the guy to light a fire under him and make him a better two-way player?
I think he would. I think he would.
It depends on, to me, I don't know. It's hard to say. I think it depends on what Kevin Knox responds to.
Yeah.
As a person, and I'm not going to say he's not the kind of guy that won't respond to somebody just like screaming and hollering at him. I don't know. He might be. And it could be exactly what he needs.
Yeah, so Sim, when you watch Kevin Knox, he had no responsibility this year. I think Tom Thibodeau would give him responsibility. I think he needs responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I think he needs that. So it's like, okay, if we got Knox on the floor, you just tell him to do certain things. It's like with Kevin Knox, you have to gradually get him into what he can do best first for him, the way how he's wired. So you give him responsibility. If I have you on the floor for 15 minutes, this is what I want you to do on the floor for 15 minutes. Because I did go back and look at his games. He's a decent rim protector where when he's around the rim area, he calls a lot of deflections and players adjust their shots around him. So again,
he blocks a lot of shots too, Mark.
Yeah, so you say to him like this: listen, since you're gonna play at the floor, I want you to be the help because you're long, you're quick, you're quicker, you're gonna be quicker. So you play defense around the basket. And for him offensively, like I said, if we play with a certain tempo, the dude know how to run the floor. When I watch him, he know how to run to the floor, to the corners, and to the basket when he has the ball in his hand and y'all just going. So again, you make it simple.
Thibodeau's not that. But see, here's the thing, Mark. What you just said, right? Thibodeau is a guy who will demand defensive awareness and concentration.
Well, you want that for Kevin Knox, though.
And he likes veterans, right? So this is the thing with Kevin Knox. Kevin Knox, I agree with Simon that if you're going to get the best out of Kevin Knox, now I think you have to make Kevin Knox the man in terms of the shooter, right? You have to have him go through picks, have him have focus as in when I'm in this, I can't just lollygag. I have to be the guy going here from east to west, whoever it may be, right? And that may be a better thing with Atkinson, who might create better space. Atkinson, again, has to work more on his X and O's. That's one of his weaknesses. The thing with Thibodeau, though, is that, and this is what we talk about, Sim mentioned this, he has to connect to Knox in a way that he could turn Knox into a bulldog, right? Because Thibodeau likes bulldogs. Him and RJ would be a match made in heaven in terms of the defensive intensity, whatever. But if you told Knox, hey, Knox, okay, on defense, I need you to do this, blah, blah. You need to be aware, blah, blah. He might get flustered. And then if he's not being the main guy on offense, that might destroy his whole confidence.
We're talking about Knox like Knox is soft. Knox is not soft.
It's not that Knox is not soft. It's not that Knox is not soft.
I agree with you. I agree, Freezy. I definitely agree with that.
But I'm not saying Knox is soft. I'm saying that Knox can get bogged down with a lot of things. It's like a machine, like a delicate machine, right? It's fine. It's good. It can work. But there are a lot of moving parts, and if it gets bogged down with a lot of stuff, it can mess up. That's Knox to me. Right? When Knox is feeling himself, in terms of confidence, like those summer league games, hey, we got an 18-8 type of play on our hands. But again, Knox can get it has nothing to do with him being tough. If I go to Knox, I say, yo, Knox, yo, F you. He might punch me to oblivion. I'm not saying he's soft. I'm saying he can get bogged down in the game where things are moving.
So, Gammo, for example, this is perfect. Because he came out and complained about his minutes this year. That's what he did.
Wait,
so
who
did? Wait, hold on.
He's right. And his minutes, Mark, his minutes got cut by a journeyman dude that averages 12 points a game, who came in and became the dominant scorer. So instead of developing Knox,
he wasn't given responsibility.
Marcus Morris averaged 12 points a game for his career. Knox was averaging 13 points.
Yeah, but hold on. Oh, freeze.
No, Gammo, he wasn't given responsibility this year. Because if you watch him on the floor and what we talk about his awareness in the game and where he should be and how he should play, there was no responsibility put on him as a player. And it clearly showed, and it clearly said it when he came out and complained about it. Now, if a player got a decent amount of responsibility, I don't think he would have came out and complained like he complained this year. He came out and complained about it. So I think Tom Thibodeau will give him, he will make it so simple for him because what's so crazy, Sim, if you remember the year he got Cal Korver, if you go back and look at, he made Cal Korver into the defensive player. And then when he went on to the Hawks, he was not a liability from when he left the 76ers, from when he played before he went to the Bulls. He made Cal Korver is flat-footed, not quick. He made him into a defensive player. He made him not just knowing where to be, how to position yourself. What you want to do for Knox is make him a positional defensive player. Because if you watch the Celtics, not all of the Celtics players are good one-on-one defensively. But as a team, they are a terror. They know where to be. Their rotations are just sweet. And this Knicks team has a lot of players that are not individually good defensively.
Again, the Celtics have a good coach. The Celtics have a great coach, though, Mark.
But when he got there, he had time to improve that team defense because he just didn't come in and he improved the whole team. It took him the amount of years that he is to today. And when you watch it, it's an oil machine defensively and what they do, their philosophy. It took him time to get there. So we can't be just talking about we hire a coach and then we expect this super advancement. I'm not looking for that. I'm just looking for little things from little certain players that I can say, I'm going to take on to next year, and he's going to get better. Because that's what we have to do right now. We're starting from scratch. Okay. We just can't say he's going to... This is a new thing. New coach, new everything.
All right. Well, we see what's going to happen, man. In the next couple of weeks, we'll find out who the coach is. In the next 2 months, we'll find out where we draft. And we'll be able,
I'm waiting for that shit.
and we'll be able to figure out. We'll be able to start putting some ingredients in there and see what we're gonna look like next year.
Tim, your man LeVar Ball is working behind the scenes for us, man. He's working for us behind the scenes.
Okay, all right. Well, look, fellas, I'm gonna get up out of here. We didn't really talk anything about the NBA. That's cool. I don't, that's cool. The only thing I say, Jamal Crawford and Michael Beasley just joined the Nets.
Man,
that's
they both need to retire.
Beautiful. Oh,
well, they just joined the Nets.
Michael Beasley
and Jamal Crawford just joined the Nets.
Oh.
But Kyrie Irving's not going to be playing. Kyrie Irving's not going to be playing.
It don't matter, Sim. If they keep Michael Beasley for next year, I just hope they keep Michael Beasley for next year. I want to see the destruction of the Nets. And you have a Nets fan in here, K5. I can't remember the rest of his name. And I was talking to him, and he said, he's hinting like, look, we like KD and Kyrie, but what they had with Atkinson was good. I cannot wait for the destruction of the Nets with Kyrie, KD, and Beasley and Tyrone Lue. Oh,
I don't know if Beasley's gonna stay long term. I think
don't kill the hope. Don't kill the dream. He's a dream.
So think about it. So think about this. So the Nets are going into a potential playoff run, and their primary guard was supposed to be Kyrie Irving. Their primary 3/4 was supposed to be KD.
Yep.
Now, Jamal Crawford, and I love Jamal Crawford, but he's not Kyrie. Jamal Crawford, Michael Beasley.
But Sim,
now Beasley can score it up though. That's not front. Beasley he can score.
He can.
Yeah, he wishy-washy from game to game though. So
but you know what though, Michael Beasley also, when you think about it, I think that his development playing under Dwayne Wade. Right, I think Michael Beasley was more of a guy that you had to have the offense focus on, because I remember watching Knicks games where I wanted to kill Michael Beasley, but there were games, but there were games where you made Michael Beasley the main guy and he would go white hot like 8 for 10 type of.
Right.
One thing that's scary, Sim. Though, imagine if that team is Dinwiddie playing.
No,
I don't think so.
Nah, 40 plays are out, bro.
I was gonna say, because if you had Dinwiddie is very interesting, because that team runs better with Dinwiddie. He's not just a guy who just jacks up shots. He played to Atkinson's system again.
No, he did.
Kyrie fell out. So if you had him, Beasley, Allen, I don't know if DJ's playing, DeAndre Jordan. If you had those guys playing and they looked good, and then you have to go next team trying to force a Kyrie, and Kyrie doesn't fit with that.
But Gamma,
that would have been beautiful drama, man.
But Gamma, I'm not saying Dinwiddie, he's not a bad player. But I think what KD and Kyrie saw with the equal opportunities, it's like you're at an establishment and then you're like, they hire you to be the main guy, but the guy that was working there was just too loose with what they do, and you're here to make money and all that stuff. And you're here to do your job at the highest level, but these guys in the office is just lollygagging. And they're doing their job, but it's not as efficient and precise and strict to an extent these star players want it. That was one of the reasons why Kenny Atkinson, because he just allowed players to just take shots, because Spencer Dinwiddie would take a lot of bad shots. And you know how KD and Kyrie, even though Kyrie might take a lot of shots, he's still an efficient player at the end of the day. He's above 48% shooter. So they play to a certain extent. So I think KD, because remember Draymond talked about it where he said, but like the next year, he didn't like how Stephen Clay, you hear me? He didn't like how Stephen Clay took shots the next year, and he was complaining about that. So he went into Brooklyn and saw all these players taking all these wild shots and saying, what is this? And I think that's what got Kenny Atkinson fired.
Okay.
I don't think he really holds it.
So look, this is the Nets roster. This is the Nets roster going to Orlando. Players who've opted out. DeAndre Jordan, he's out. Spencer Dinwiddie's out. Taurean Prince is out. Wilson Chandler is out.
They're cotton right now.
Obviously, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are out. So this is who they have. At point guard, you got Tyler Johnson. They just signed Tyler Johnson.
Oh, my God.
And Chris, how do you say his name? Chris Chiozza?
Who is that?
You tell me. I don't know.
Right? That's their backup point guard. That's their backup point guard right now.
Oh, my God.
At shooting guard, They got Karis LeVert, Garrett Temple, and now Jamal Crawford. Small
Joe
forward.
Harris, right?
Huh?
Joe Harris is not playing?
Small forward.
Okay.
At small forward, they got
My
Joe
bad.
Harris, Timothy Lawawa Cabarrett, TLC. And then at power forward, they got TLC. They got Curix, Jonan Musa, and Justin Anderson. Then at center, they got Jared Allen. And, of course, they got Michael Beasley to go back and forth between that power forward. Michael Beasley could become the starting power forward.
Looking like
He might be there. He might be their starting power forward.
Wait, hold on. Did you hear Lance Thomas' name's back? Lance might get a roster spot. You mean Lance Thomas?
But Sim, you know how bad this is, bro? You name all those guys, and you tell me Theo Pinson couldn't get a spot on that. Wow, we got fleeced. I know we got picked up
fleeced.
Waivers, but
I agree.
I know we picked them up on waivers, but still, man, if Theo Pinson could make that team with a bunch of dudes you named from like a Benetton ad that I've never heard of, that means Theo Pinson sucks.
Yeah, but sometimes things are semantics, so they let him go so that they could pick up Tyler Johnson.
Yeah, that's what they did. And
sometimes things are semantics and have to do with salaries and all that stuff.
Let me look up the stats. I don't want to talk trash about Tyler.
Yeah, as of right now,
he got a 5-year, $50 million deal.
As of right now,
yeah, but I mean,
the
my
Nets
bad.
look horrible.
But the thing is, Tyler Johnson is a point guard.
Yeah,
Theo
he's a decent
Pinson is
NBA
not a
player.
point guard.
Right. This dude.
So they needed a point guard.
7 point. Oh.
So, you remember last year when they got Kevin and Kyrie? It's like, oh, the Knicks ain't the team of the town. It's like, look at y'all now. Y'all worse than us.
I can't wait to watch them. I just want to. I don't want to say nothing. I don't want to say nothing. I don't want to say I want to watch it burn because it'd be our luck. They end up doing something.
No.
Yeah, you know
playing well.
They would crash and burn and draft like number one this year and get like.
I'm kind of glad.
I'm
kind of glad we didn't go for those two players. I really am, because at the end of the day, we had to start over. We just had to.
So we didn't go for what two players? Kyrie and KD.
Because they went in there, they shook it up, and imagine if they came here and shook it up.
But you know what though? But you know what? It would have been different because Fizdale would have been their yes man.
Yes. God
Fizdale would have been Tyrone Lue for KD and Kyrie. I can guarantee it. He would have been Tyrone Lue for them guys. It would have been different.
Jesus Christ. But
it would have been different.
They roster worse than the Knicks right now. Listen, man.
That joint looks crazy. I'm watching every game.
I'm watching every game, bro.
And if they get Lance Thomas, they deserve MVP, bro.
Hey, Mark, I want to run something by you. Hey, so I have this weird feeling that Dennis Smith Jr. is going to be a mainstay in New York. Coming off a season where he was injured and had all these things going on in his third year. Listen, averaged 14 points a game and 5 assists.
I do not care. You get rid of him while it's hot, because his confidence for me isn't for us. Remember when we went to the game, we saw him walk to the bench. And Dotson went to him. Listen, man, that's one thing why I love Frank, because his confidence do not waver as bad as he would have games. I need to play. No. I'm talking about. That's why.
I'm sorry about that.
If Frank didn't have confidence to a point where it's like he don't know who he is because he know who he is as a player on the floor. That's a big difference between him and Dennis Smith Jr. Dennis Smith Jr. don't know what he is on the floor. It's times he don't even know what to do with the ball. Okay? He's not thorough. Sorry. He's not thorough. If you're not thorough,
he should go to if he really wants to fix his career,
I don't
honestly,
care where he goes.
I would do a stint in the G League, bro.
Listen,
but I know it's pride and that stuff, but I would do.
There's a lot of young guys in this draft that we can fleece that I think could be quality players that the Knicks would need. I think we need to trade him.
As far as physical ability, there is no Dennis Smith Jr. in this draft.
Bro,
Yeah, but who cares about physical ability? Because Dennis Smith Jr. is 6'2", 206, 205, right? You're telling me a guy like Kara Lewis, I don't care about your physical ability if it doesn't match with your mental, because Dennis Smith Jr. relies solely on his athleticism. This is a guy can't shoot, can't facilitate properly, doesn't read the defenses properly. Literally, dude, he, as much as I want him to do well, physical ability don't mean nothing, man. I take a Chris Paul I take a Andre Miller from the Nuggets. I take Andre Miller over Dennis Smith Jr. any day of the week.
Yo, people
Andre Miller, I remember from 2000s, couldn't shoot a three for his life. Always looked like he had a hunchback, but he was one of the most underrated point guards in the league.
You talking about the Alfred Payton model point guard? Okay.
No. Andre Miller was not Alfred Payton. No.
He's not at all.
No,
not at all.
Andre Miller would not just feed it to Julius Randle.
Andre Miller can run a team. He can run a team, and he can shoot. And he can shoot. And he can shoot.
Threes are terrible. You're shooting at sometimes like 18%.
We talk about injury.
Everything else was pure point guard, man.
Sim, we talk about injury, and people forget that this dude has no knees and back injuries, back problems.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
This is ACLs, like both.
But look, I'm about to get out of here, guys, man. I want to give a shout out to A. Santos. Yeah, we were still live. I want to give a shout out to A. Santos. He said, first and foremost, salute to the chat. Appreciate you, Santos. Then he said, do you take anything away from us interviewing Jason Kidd twice? No, because I think they're doing that with everyone. I think they had an initial meeting with each coach, to just say, hi, hey, what's up, blah, 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 blah. And then they did an official interview with each coach. So I think that's going on. That's with everybody. But anyway, I'm out of here, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you guys for being on with me. And I'll probably be on tomorrow night after I do Underground Radio on the front stoop. I'll come on tomorrow night and talk about whatever news we had to talk about tomorrow night. If there is any. The news is about to start picking up, though, with the New York Knicks. You can guarantee that. It's about to start picking up. But I'm out of here, fellas, man. I'll catch you guys.
Check out Guillermo video.
Yeah. Make sure you go check out Guillermo's video. Definitely. Guillermo, make sure you put that in the chat. Make sure you put it in the chat.
That was one of the most funniest videos I saw today, because when you was going rah about the Instagram clip and then you brought up Melo out of nowhere, that was what I was crying, because I was like, you really was reaching for that one right there. Like,
Melo's my dude. I should have showed him more love and talked about how I like Melo over LeBron. But Melo hurt my heart, man. So I had to bring a hoodie Melo, man. I know the one dislike I'm gonna get is probably gonna be from Sim or something.
Yeah, no doubt. But anyway, I'm gonna let you guys get out of here. I'm gonna go comment on Guillermo's video. You know what I'm saying? And big shout out to Spurs with Aiden, Sportscaster. I appreciate you for the tip. I'm out of here, ladies and gentlemen. Be peaceful.